I thought I'd do a reading from my my new book same time next week, just so that you can see what the flow of it is like. I've got 5 leading ladies in this book, but just concentrate on one of them, Amanda, who is having a really rough time. She's bowed under with the pressure of looking after an elderly parent. She's battered by the menopause. Dreadful, dreadful time. And she's not having a great time at work either. And a couple of days previously, she did a presentation to the new young male head honcho at work, Linus, and she made a bit of a cock of it, really. And her boss, the #1 misogynist on the planet, Philip, stepped in, pushed her to one side, totally humiliated her. So she's been expecting to get a call to go in and see Linus. She thinks this is possibly the beginning of the end for her, and sure enough, she's been summoned to his office and she's just walked in and she is preparing herself to be winkled out of the company. Well, it's nice to finally have a one-to-one with you, Amanda. We've only really said hello in passing so far, more or less, haven't we? Yes. Amanda tried to smile and failed dismally. The tension in the air was thickening by the microsecond. So, here we go. I've invited you in because of... He paused, and Amanda filled in the rest of a sentence for him in her head. Of concerns about you being in charge of an annual budget you can't even pronounce, Amanda. Amanda swallowed, felt her cheeks began to glow with an uncomfortable warmth. Looking for a new job at her age was going to be a laugh. She was wrong, though. Linus started his sentence again. Can I be frank? I want to talk to you because you're a woman. That was unexpected. Not quite with you, Linus, Amanda said slowly, in case she was missing something that was glaringly obvious. Well, there aren't a lot of women in this company, are there? Which is odd for a firm that specialises in baby equipment. Why do you think that is? No, there weren't. That was true. Didn't help that the head of HR was a closeted misogynist and only set on men where he had a choice. Also, there had been 3 other women in the marketing department until Philip became its manager, and he managed to drive them all out with his rigid, ungiving leadership style. He seemed to think they were an alien race out to make his life difficult when they needed to leave early for a school emergency or to take an elderly parent to an appointment. Oh, and she'd seen the way he looked at her when she'd had to stand by an open window just to cool down for 5 minutes or disappear off to the loo mid-meeting because her bladder now gave her 10 seconds notice to get there. But could she say all this to Linus, or should she just rattle her head and play dumb? That would have been the safer course, but too often these days the brake on her better judgment just didn't operate like it should. She'd expected to come into this room and be given a warning for being incompetent, maybe a push towards the exit door. That's what the climate of this company had instilled in her to presume, but it hadn't happened. So what did she have to lose by saying to him what she'd tried to say to HR on 3 separate occasions? She hadn't even tried to sit Philip down because he'd have run off with his fingers in the ears, shouting, "La, la, la." This is not a woman-friendly organisation, Linus. It scared them all off. There, it was out. The words hanging in the air in 20-foot flashing neon unmissable letters. Words that acted like a slap on Linus's face from the look of it. You're going to have to explain that statement, he replied eventually. In for a penny. Here goes. A little understanding of women's health circumstances would go a long way in this industry. I don't know why it's taken the management so long to realise this. The menopause has hit me like a sledgehammer, Linus. I forget things. I say animal budgie when I mean annual budget in meetings. I sweat. I get panic attacks sometimes. I can't sleep at night, so I arrive at work with eyes swollen and bloodshot, leading to some sneering from Philip again, as if I'm some sort of midweek party girl. I have to pause meetings to go to the loo, and I know how I'm being talked about behind my back for all this. And trust me, that does nothing for my already hormonally induced elevated anxiety levels. I've been here For over 20 years, never even took a sick day. I know my job inside out. I've even won awards, Linus. She was well aware she was giving him a monologue worthy of Shakespeare, but she had his ear and she wasn't going to waste the opportunity. Yes, our mothers put up and shut up about the menopause, but we shouldn't have to, Linus, because it's not myth or made up. These changes happening within us are real, and they tend to clobber us when we've got elderly parents and children to get through their own difficult stages. It can impact on our whole lives, and it needs to be talked about more, not less. It isn't a dirty secret, and it shouldn't be treated as such. Have you any idea how many things it affects? Our mental health as well as our physical, our bones, our joints, our sleep, our bladders, our self-worth, our hair, our skin, our heart rates. And don't even get me started on the rage, Linus. I don't know what vitamins to take. Do I take them with black pepper, turmeric, ashwagandha, apple cider vinegar? I don't know what sort of collagen, bovine, marine, or if any of them do any good. Powders, capsules, gummies. I don't know why I've apparently got a folic acid deficiency, because who knew of women of my age were supposed to take it? Magnesium helps for sleep, or does it? And if so, what sort? And then you've got size 0 celebs on the TV prattling about. Not a bead of sweat on their heads after a 2-hour session with their personal trainers sponsored by companies, telling us all we'd have superpowers if we take their stupidly expensive supplements, and how we want to believe them, Linus. So we stump up. If men went through the menopause, there have been definitive programs and information and help in place for years. She let loose a long breath by way of a full stop and allowed that to sink in. If Linus's expression was anything to go by, it would take some time. He looked buried under the avalanche of her words. She dabbed at her face with a fresh tissue because the effort of saying all that had made her start sweating again. Who even knew that top lips could drip as much? Well, thank you for being so candid, said Linus, nodding thoughtfully, slowly. His brain was clearly chewing on her words as if they were one of her bloody useless collagen gummies. This has totally bypassed me. He gave a small laugh rooted in a mix of confusion and embarrassment. I've tried to raise this with Carl in HR on numerous occasions. No point with Philip. Sod it. They needed dobbing in, she thought. Linus pressed his hands together, tapped them against his mouth as if setting his thoughts to a rhythm. So what do we do? He asked eventually. How can I help change things? Make them better? Amanda gulped. Really? Oh, yes, of course. I don't want to add to the list of men who are ignoring this in the workplace. How do we approach it sensibly and sensitively? How do we march forward? I'd like your assistance if you could. This really wasn't turning out for either of them as they expected when she walked in through Linus's office door. I was hoping to beat Carl into some submission by trying to pin him down again. I had some fresh ideas. I can collect more. I don't mean 40 extra days holidays per year sort of ideas. Let's be clear, said Amanda. Constructive, workable suggestions that will improve things for women at certain stages of their lives while causing the minimum disruption to the company. There's a meeting place in the middle. Yes, you'll always get the odd person who wants to milk the complications of their sex, but for all women to be judged on that basis is unfair. I totally agree, Amanda. This is very exciting. Linus was talking and thinking at the same time. She could virtually see the cogs turning in his skull. This could really send wide ripples throughout every workplace in the country, he went on. We could lead. Amanda nodded. Yes, we could. Initially, it would need someone at Linus's level to make changes with HR because Carl had all the bending capabilities of tungsten. He and Philip were a pair in that, which was probably why they got on like a house on fire. Each recognising a fella twatting the other was the general consensus.